Please note everyone in attendance except for Dave. Our first item this evening is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the October 8th meeting, approval of bills and claims. In our licenses and permits, we have a renewal of a Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales for Rancho Grande. We have a renewal of a Class E liquor license with carry-out beer and carry-out wine, included native wine at Fairway Stores. Number 409, renewal of a Class C liquor license with outdoor service, Aussie Show Club, Piranha Club. We also have a appropriations for tax increment financing for Biokinemetrics Holdings LLC and DMBA Properties and Consulting. We also have the acceptance of tobacco settlement agreements. We have a change in the city council meeting. An annual council planning session is set up, and the library city hall project construction testing. Any questions? Motion to approve? Motion.
Second.
Second. If there any further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Seaman? Yes. Cots?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item is oral requests and communications from the audience, and this is on train horn mitigation discussion. Please come forward, give us your name, and then give you about 5-10 minutes or so. Sorry about stuff. You can use the microphone if you want. Oh, he's going to go down there.
Strategically, you guys did this, so
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing up there. My name is Ryan Milligan, and I represent a group of individuals, business owners, and residents, many who are in attendance tonight, who would like the City Council to make train horn noise mitigation a priority. Back in 2013, the City Council had this as a priority, and for several years it was on the top 10 list, I believe. Last year it came off that list. We would encourage you to add that back to your list. As you look back what the city has spent their money on, streetscape is obviously a big ticket item over the last decade. Aesthetically and visually, you've improved many curbs, gutters, sidewalks, landscaping, including benches along those areas. However, I don't know anyone who wants to sit on a bench with a 110 decibel train horn going by. So I would ask you to look at improving also the noise pollution that the trains cause for the area. I think everyone in this room could probably agree that they've been on a restaurant patio, in a chamber office at a meeting, a retail business with their doors open, or even a resident trying to sleep with their windows open and had disruption from the train horn noise. I have a study here that was done by an engineer in Kansas City who writes, the locomotive horn is an effective deterrent to accidents at grade crossings. However, the loud noise associated with the locomotive train horn is often a quality of life issue in populated areas where trains operate. Several supplementary safety measure options are available for installation at the crossings to achieve the silencing of the locomotive horn. And I think that's what we're asking, is the City Council would look into those options again. Obviously, the study from 2013 is still available. And we would ask you to look at those options and also look at alternatives to intersections where there maybe was some questioning on what could be done or businesses that were affected at those intersections. So first and foremost, we ask you to look into that. As our group has been formed, if you'd like the citizens to continue with pursuing this, we are more than happy to get information for you. As a matter of fact, I've sent to Mike, there is a webinar on November 2nd, which is done by the Iowa DOT on the rail division, which is specific to the quiet zone studies. So that information will be passed on to you from Mike if you'd like to attend it. But it's great information and timely for this issue right now. I don't know if there's any questions or any other follow-up items.
Hey, Ryan, how many people are in your group right now?
Well, here tonight I have Dr. Steve Krause, Adam Schweers, also John Crook is in it, my father Paul Milligan, and then we also have a few retail businesses here. Top Loft with Stephanie Hackford is here as well. So again, we're just a small group trying to get it started. We've talked to the chamber before we went widespread. You've already started the study. We just ask that you kind of pick up where you left off and look at those things that can be done. Again, we know there's some areas that there's going to be issues with intersections, whether it be curb and gutter or medians. We just look to ask you to look at alternative options, as there's double armbar crossings instead of a median, which then nothing has to be done to, prohibit access to a business or anybody else around it. So, anything else?
Thank you, Ryan. Like I said, we're going to have our strategic meeting is December 4th, so we'll be having that discussion. I think it'll probably come up at that point too, and we'll see where we go.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And also, as I just Googled, if you Google train horn noise mitigation, you'll get dozens upon dozens of studies that are done by other communities. I printed off 2 today, and I mean they're packed full with engineers and what the train horn noise does and what alternatives are out there. So if you have time, just Google it.
Brian, do you know if there's any towns close around with it?
Absolutely. I mean, you look around locally from Denison, Boone, Ames, along the Highway 30 corridor. There's a number of them already that have done it. So
I believe Ogden does too, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So there's a lot right here to our neighboring communities that have already done it. So any contacts, those locations would be good to research it further if you'd like.
Ryan, have you thought about a price tag that you would say would be too high to consider this?
I don't think we're that far enough into it to know what the price tag is. From the study that was done in 2013, it appears there's an algorithm that has to be done on safety. So if you do a double arm bar, it's worth so many points. If you do a median, it's worth a different point system. And then at the end of the day, you have a total points, which equate to a safety measure. Double arm bars are more expensive than a median, so it depends on how many double arm bars you do versus medians and things like that. So if you go to the city of Boone, they have some intersections where they did nothing. They left them as is, and they offset that with higher safety at another intersection to get their total points up to where they needed to be. So it's a game you have to play with points, is what it appears to be. Again, just from our group looking at the study that was done several years ago.
You don't know if that was the same group that did Boone's. Did they do ours?
I don't know that.
Okay.
And John's not here tonight. John was actually part of that group in Boone that
worked
led
on
that along.
Okay.
Bolton and Mencken, I think, was the one that did yours. The study I found here was out of Kansas City. They did one for their Overland Park area. So, yeah, like I say, there's lots of different studies on that for sure.
Is this a thing that you have to do all intersections at one time?
Yeah, you have to,
I think
you want
that-
to do it at one shot.
That was what the intent was, so that in order to get it to qualify for all of them, you had to do all the
I think
ones
it would
that
be
were.
safe.
Yeah.
Well, you could phase it in, but the trains would still blast until everything was.
Everything was
Oh,
set
okay.
in, yeah.
There's also an issue, if I understand, through discussions with Bolton, that make that you have 7 intersections within the city, or 7 crossings within the city of Carroll. You have your 5 in downtown, and you have 2 on the outskirts. If you do just the 5, way the pointing system is, you have to have an improvement to add additional ones. So you may run into an issue where if you just do the 5 in downtown, you may never be able to make the 2 other ones quiet zones in the future. So we'll have to look at that real carefully as we go forward.
I think there was an option to take one out. We could
Yes.
take one of the streets out, which would have cut the cost down, so we've only had to do 6, but if you take that one out, you lose points. If you do it ahead of time. So
Correct. So
You're
Maple-
better off to wait, yeah.
The Maple Street crossing would be the one that you potentially would take out and eliminate.
Right.
But I know some individuals in that neighborhood objected to the removal of that crossing, so that'll have to be one thing to consider.
Right, okay.
Mike, I've got a copy of that study myself. Is there anyone else on the council who needs a copy of that, our previous study?
Yeah, I mean, we have it electronic, so we're able to pass it out pretty easily.
Okay, would you make sure that we all get
Yep.
a copy of that?
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The next item are ordinances, and our first ordinance tonight is the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan, the third reading of the ordinance. This is consideration for the Division of Revenues under Iowa Code, Section 403.19 for the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan. And Mr. Kogi Weaver will provide the council an overview on the proposed ordinance, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I'm going to go without the mic. If someone wants a mic, holler. But tonight, the council will be considering the third reading and possible final adoption of the ordinance for Division of Revenues under Iowa Code Section 403.19 for the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan. So at previous council meetings, I provided background on urban renewal and tax increment financing and what that was. So unless there are specific questions on that, I don't plan on going into those topics tonight. But certainly if there's questions, I'm happy to do so. As way of background, at the June 25th, 2018 council meeting, direction was given by the City Council to proceed with the creation of an urban renewal plan to support the development and tax increment financing TIF rebate agreement for the development of the Carroll Park apartment project. On August 6, 2018, the City Council approved a rezoning request from R3 to planned unit development with an underlay zoning of R5 and approved the Carroll Park Apartments preliminary plat. On August 27th, 2018, the City Council approved a resolution adopting the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan and the first reading of the ordinance. And then on September 10th, 2018, the City Council approved the second reading of the ordinance. That's before the council this evening. The proposed development calls for the construction of two 30-unit, 3-story market rate apartment buildings on the south side of the property and 8 owner-occupied duplex buildings for a total of 16 units on the north side of the property. The apartments will be all 2-bedroom units with a higher level of interior finishings, including a washer and dryer in each unit, granite countertops, oak cabinets, etc. Rents for the units in the 30-unit building is targeted between $950 and $1,000 per month. The duplexes will be marketed with a range of approximately $240,000 per unit. It is anticipated that the developer will invest at least $11.5 million in the development of the housing units, including but not limited to the construction of new streets, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, gas, electrical infrastructure, and the units themselves. The approved Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan and this ordinance will provide the city the ability to provide an incentive that will reimburse the developer the cost of installing the public utilities and infrastructure for the development. JEO Consulting Group has completed an engineer's probable cost for the infrastructure and has estimated that the public utilities will cost $493,060. The urban renewal plan specifies that the maximum incentive will be the developer's certified cost of the public improvements, or $600,000. Tonight, staff's recommendation is consideration of the third reading and final adoption of the attached ordinance. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have this evening. Thank you.
Any questions? At this point, I can allow individuals that want to come to the council on this issue. There is a public hearing on our next item that also pertains to this. If you want to speak with regards to the ordinance, that's fine. I can give 20 minutes, 5 minutes to each person. If you have, and I just respectfully request that, if you hear someone state the same thing you do, you refrain from speaking. But if there's anybody that wants to speak with regards to the ordinance. Just give us your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Neil Locke, and I live at 1216 Woodland Drive here in Carroll, Iowa. Can't see it because the sun's bright, but I want to thank you, Mayor and the City Council, for having time for us to speak. And I want to thank the City Manager for keeping in touch with me on this. First, I want to thank the City Council for their restrictive covenant of 21 years, which will keep it market rate, and 21 years is allowed by law. But still, there are homeowners who object to having 1 or 2 30-unit apartments in their neighborhood, like any of the City Council members who do not live in the neighborhood of the development. They're the people who are going to experience lower resale of their homes and other associated problems. And the city of Carroll, this may be true of other places too, when ownership is out of county, the bigger an apartment complex is, the more serious and prevalent the problems. I hope the market rate covenant is what it takes for the city of Carroll to have a successful housing project. The current record of big apartment complexes is not very good. For the record, this has to do with the housing study. I was involved in it, as some of you were as well. And the top priority of the housing study for the city of Carroll, when I'm referencing page 54, paragraph 2 reads, overall housing reinvestment and maintenance is strong, which makes me question why you're offering so much money to this builder. The city's older housing stock will require continued investment, especially for a larger number of homes constructed in the 60s or 70s. For most of the existing city, neighborhood conservation and infill should be the top priority. Large apartment complexes are not suggested as top priority by any means. Closing, I feel your minds are pretty well made up on this issue, but giving an estimated $493,060 up to $600,000 to an out-of-town developer whereas profits will be spent outside of the county is probably not a very good investment. However, your change to have a market rate covenant of 21 years is appreciated. Hopefully history will prove you right. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Any other comments?
I have a question. It has to do with the subdivision agreement we'll be on next. But since you brought up the August 6th meeting and the rezoning request, I was looking at JEO's memo from July 2nd, which was a part of our packet at our August 6th meeting. And we never really discussed it. I didn't think it would be an issue. But when I went through the final copy of this agreement, I guess I need to understand. I thought based on JEO's memo from July 2nd that said, mentioned that they are Greenstream, which is the group we are partnering with, and they will be, we are signing the agreement with. Greenstream Homes of Iowa are partnering with the City of Carroll as our, TIF rebate. Additionally, Greenstream Homes of Iowa is partnered with other local investors to provide other means of financial backing. Upon request, evidence of developer capabilities to successfully complete the proposed subdivision can be provided. Based on that, maybe I shouldn't assume, but I did assume, I know that's not a good thing to do, that all the financing was in place. And based on section, what was it, 22H in here, one of the second bullet point in your cover memo, Mike, mentions that they are working to obtain firm commitments. Can you fill us in? There seems to be a discrepancy. I was surprised to read that in the document.
So, yes, I agree exactly with what you said. If you go back to the agreement that was provided on August 27th to the council, it said, yes, we have firm commitments. And it was really through discussions of getting ready to execute the agreement that they did inform the city that they were still working. Some of their commitments were contingent on receiving the TIF and the TIF agreement that's before the council this evening. And so that language in there was modified to reflect that, yes, they do not have the financing in place, but it is something that they've said, yes, we will get in place. And that's why it was modified to allow them to get this in place and then provide us within 180 days before they can go forward on this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Right here.
Give us your name and address, please. And
Josh Sample, 1040 Roman Road. My question is, when they decide that they're not renting and they want to go to government funding, what is the penalty? We collect the TIF back, or how does that work?
Exactly that, Josh. I mean, they would be in default of the agreement. We'd have measures legally to force them to adhere to that. So we could take, we could challenge them through a lawsuit even without, seeking the money back, and enforce the agreement as they agreed to and have signed.
Okay, but the TIF is 5% of the total cost, so how is that scary to them?
Well, again, that's just one remedy of it. The other remedy, again, is, when you sign a legally binding agreement, and I can defer to our city attorney, but once you sign a legally binding agreement, you have to adhere to that. So regardless of the incentive and the status of the incentive, they still have to fulfill the restrictive covenant they're agreeing to in this agreement.
Okay. So that's all we can hold them for, is that TIF money, the $600,000, plus probably interest?
Well, and fulfilling the agreement that it's a restricted covenant, so we would have remedies through the legal system to enforce that restricted covenant.
Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
thank you. We got some time left. If I give 20 minutes. If not, any other questions from council? Not, I'll need a motion to adopt the attached ordinance. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta approve the third reading of the final plat of the ordinance for the division of revenues under Iowa Code Section 403.19 with the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. If there isn't any other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
No.
Dirks?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved 5-1.
And then I will need a motion to adopt the attached ordinance for the division of revenues under Iowa Code 403.19 for the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilman Fleshner. Any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote.
Seaman?
No.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Motion is approved 5-1.
Thank you. The next item is the Carroll Park Apartments Urban Renewal Plan Development Agreement with Greenstream Homes of Iowa LLC. And it is 5:39, and I will open a public hearing. And Mike, please.
Thank you. Tonight, council will hold a public hearing and consider a proposal to enter into a development agreement with Greenstream Homes of Iowa LLC. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Daily Times Herald on October 18th, 2018. As stated earlier, the development agreement outlines terms and conditions for the proposed incentive and will reimburse the developer the cost of installing the public infrastructure for the development. JEO Consulting Group has completed an engineer's probable cost of opinion of probable cost on the public utilities and have estimated the utilities will cost $493,060. The urban renewal plan specifies that the maximum incentive will be the certified developer's cost of the public infrastructure, or $600,000. Since the last time this development agreement came before the council on August 27th, there have been a few changes, and I'm going to highlight those changes with the council right now. First, this agreement, there was a change in the lead developer from the development agreement from Canyon Hills LLC to Greenstream Homes of Iowa LLC. Greenstream Homes of Iowa LLC was the group that completed the subdivision plat and rezoning for Carroll Park apartment originally. Revisions were made to section 2.2H related to project financing commitments, and the developer is required to have them in place within 180 days after approval of the development agreement. There were revisions made to section 2.2J, section 8.1A, paragraphs 2 and 4, and the deleting of section 11.1A, and then they renumbered that section, so there is a new paragraph A. Originally, the development agreement required that the developer complete all the improvements by September 1st, 2021, and that was removed. In part, if the developer did not complete the improvements by that time, the city could actually have taken legal action to force him to complete the development. And obviously, the developer, as we've talked previously, has planned to do one of the buildings, and once they reach a certain occupancy point, they'd begin construction on the second building. Obviously, if they don't get the occupancy, we don't want them to be forced to build a building that isn't going to be occupied. It would not meet anyone's goals and objection from that perspective. So there were revisions made. Additionally, the revisions would provide no incentive unless 50% of the apartment units and 50% of the duplex units are completed by June 1 of 2022. And additionally, if only a portion of the units are completed by that time, the incentive would be reduced by the percentage of the units not completed at that point. Additionally, there was revisions made to 6.9, and which restricts government subsidized rental properties in the development for 21 years. The restriction will automatically renew for a successful 21-year period. Additionally, the city can issue what's called a valid claim, which we plan to do, which would extend the prohibition for an additional 21-year periods. The valid claim can be done by the city without the need of any current or future property owner's consent. And additionally, Exhibit F was added to the development agreement, which provides a valid claim form that the city can use and be executed actually by the city clerk and then recorded. Article 11 was added to the agreement, which allows the developer to terminate the agreement by April 1st of 2019. And additionally, if the agreement would be terminated, the developer is still obligated to repay the city legal costs under Section 11.5A. And finally, dates have been updated to the agreement reflecting the start of construction moving from the fall of 2018 to the spring of 2019. The city has worked with our legal counsel with Allers and Cooney to create the draft development agreement before the council this evening. So staff recommendations after public hearing, the council consider and possible approval of a resolution ratifying, confirming, and approving publication of notice of the public hearing and approving and authorizing the execution of the development agreement between the City of Carroll and Greenstream Homes of Iowa, LLC. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council would have. Thank you.
So the 21 years, it's kind of it just automatically renews.
Each year, we're going to do it.
Does the council have to vote?
The council does not have to vote.
Okay.
We can issue what's called a
Just
valid
issue.
claim
Okay.
and do that annually is what we plan to do at this point.
So it'll be either 20 or 21 years forever.
Correct.
So my understanding then, Mike, is that we would get that valid claim, and each time we renew that valid claim, then 21 years starts again, correct?
From that point, correct. So it doesn't add on 21 years. It's just from that point forward, it'd be 21 years.
Right. This helps us to minimize the chances of forgetting or not keeping things at top of mind.
And again, this is the public hearing, so I'd like to point out that those who wish to address the council can come forward again, state their name and address. I'll give 5 minutes to each speaker, so whoever wants to address, they can. If a speaker addresses the same topic that you did, I would just ask that you can just concur with them, that'd be fine. I guess I'd just like to point out that I think we really tried to get through this agreement and allay as much of the concerns about government housing with this as we could, and prevent this facility from turning into something along that line, in order to provide, some sort of relevant rental housing and the duplexes, so. I mean, we've gone through this concern once before with the previous developer that had come forward, and that one the council really had no interest in doing whatsoever. And so we're trying to stay away from the Section 8, Section 42. None of that in this development, so.
I just have a quick question, and about the style and the design. It's probably too late, but many of the people who are concerned about their property values are in my ward, Ward 4, many in Mike's Ward 1, this is Ward 1 actually, but many of the people who have spoken, talked to me are in my ward that are concerned about their property values. I remember John Worden spoke and said, something this huge, this isn't how people really want to live. And I would say for $950 to $1,000 a month, that these to me would be a hard sell. The 3-story. Was any thought given? I know these are exactly the same buildings they're doing in Webster City, I believe, and Dave Walters told us that. There is a concern that these will not fit into the nature of the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? How we all agree we need workforce housing. It's just how we get there. And I concur with Neil, what he just said. I think we have a really good, tight agreement to protect the city's investment, but I think a lot of it has to do with just these huge buildings. And it's probably too late to get them to do some other design that would be more in character with the neighborhood. I even had someone call me and say, these look like barracks. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I wonder if it's too late, since we're pushing this back a bit, to have them work with us and maybe come up with something that would be more appealing and more reflective of what Neil and others have. He's their spokesperson, but I've had so many conversations with so many people from my ward about the very thing that Neil mentioned. We do have a really good agreement. We need workforce housing. This just doesn't fit in the character of that neighborhood. And even farther north, the development that Steffes is doing, I would think it would enhance their ability to sell their lots also. But if it's too late, it's too late.
Are you talking about like the apartment building?
Yeah, these 3-story.
I mean, I thought the townhomes looked fine when I.
Yeah, the townhome. No, yeah. It's the apartments.
The apartment complex.
230. Yeah, these are.
I drove past. We went to Ames yesterday, and you go past there on Highway 30 from about South Dakota Street all the way to Duff. And when I went to school over there in the 80s, none of those apartments were there, and those things had just blown up in the last 20 years.
You know what Ames
but they
is
look
doing?
Very nice. They're very classy looking apartments. If that would be something.
And they go right to the downtown and campus town. They go right to. People are upset about that. I have a friend who's a realtor over there, and she said people are upset, and Ames has actually put a moratorium on building apartments.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot there.
So, but hey, I just wonder if it's too late to do something with the design so they fit more, they're more in character with the neighborhood. If not, fine. I maybe should have brought it up earlier.
So one of the issues we'd have to weigh is the design itself is part of and was approved
The
as part
agreement.
of the PUD,
Yeah.
the development. So to make a change to the design at this point, we'd have to go back through the rezoning process. And we'd have to amend the approved.
What would it take us to for where we have R5 underlay,
So, I mean,
right?
it doesn't, the zoning, that part wouldn't change per se, But the planned unit development, one of the benefits with the planned unit development is
The multi-unit.
you get to tie down the exact layout and design of all the units. So in the PUD, what the council approved is this elevation. And so for us to make a change, we'd have to go back through the PUD process and amend the rezone, we'd go through a rezoning and amend that to change to a different design.
I guess,
I get what you're saying, Mike.
Yeah, that-
Maybe I should have thought, yeah.
like the siding or something, you know.
I mean, some of
maybe
that's
more-
easy.
That could be redone.
One of the other things that
I'd have to look at, maybe have a discussion with Dave about that. I mean,
And one of the things we worked with the developer specifically, and there were two different designs. One had a pitched roof and one had a flat roof, which we ultimately went with the flat roof design. In part was so it had a lower profile and didn't block views. And so that was one of the really important keys of at least selecting that option, working with development on that option.
Too late.
Just on the comment of the barracks, I will tell you, I lived in barracks, and I never
I
lived
knew
in
you
anything
would,
that
I
nice.
knew you would say, I knew
So-
I'd hear from Mike. Thanks, Mike.
A little bit of advantage on this is it's down in a valley.
I know where, I know, I'm
So it's
just,
not gonna look as
I'm
big.
just trying to reinforce what I've heard from many people in my life.
please give us your name and address, please.
Josh Laird, 1406 East 11th. How will the city council know if anybody's in there violating this agreement? If anybody is using section 8 or section 42?
They can't use section 42 at all.
Right, but
That's not,
what if they did?
they can't. That's what I'm saying, they can't, because this is brand-new construction.
Right, I
And it's
agree.
not gonna be section 42, so you can't go back and be section 42.
Okay.
You can go back and be section
But what I'm
8.
asking is how do you know and who enforces that?
They have to apply to Region 12
Okay.
for the section 12, or section 42. But since that hasn't been done, that's not gonna be this.
So there's no other subsidies they could use besides section 8 or section 42? Is that
Well,
correct?
the USDA
Yeah,
has some
there's-
of it,
there's-
but
yeah,
it has to be
It's got to be done before the
before
contract
the
starts.
Yeah, and I talked to the housing people, that offer, that's not even offered anymore like it was earlier. And with the rent the way this is, it can never, ever qualify for Section 8. Because if they got that much money, then they don't get Section 8.
So there's no way to violate it?
Well, they can't get the section, they don't even qualify, so they can't get even subsidy money.
So they can't, to answer your question, they can't violate it.
Okay.
Right.
Two of the options that you brought up would require previous implementation before the plan was brought forth.
So nobody could just show up with a voucher and violate it and get away with it for a while without anybody knowing?
Well, they're not gonna get any money.
Voucher wouldn't be issued for that high dollar of a rental.
Let's take the house next door to you. Somebody owns that house. They could take a Section 8 voucher if they wanted to.
Right.
But they're only going to get the amount of money that the Section 8 voucher gets. So if that's $500 and their mortgage payment's $1,300, they're just going to pay the mortgage payment for that. So it's a losing proposition. It isn't going to work unless they have a big heart and they're going
Right.
to take a huge loss.
Right.
So it
Okay.
can't happen that way.
And I guess my second question is how do we enforce like multiple families moving into one apartment?
So state law actually changed about a year, maybe 2 years ago now, that actually took the city's ability to control the number of people living in dwelling units away. So if 70 people wanted to move into a two-bedroom apartment, I mean, I'll be frank, the city has no ability to stop that. And that really came out of Iowa City and Ames, Cedar Falls. They were trying to restrict on a kind of family status, but the legislature came in and superseded. So we don't have any ability
They can
to.
trump the city?
Yes.
Right.
Yep. That's local control, and when the state wants to take it away, they do.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mine is
All right.
No, you're good. Simple question.
Give us your name and address, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry,
Thank you.
Kristen Sample, 1040 Roman Road.
Yes.
My biggest question was, who's responsible for renewing it each year? Is it this, it's like you guys, or?
So the way the development agreement is written is this, and I don't want to throw her under the bus, but the city clerk has the ability to sign the paper and then file a report.
And then is it almost like required for any new elected members to sign it? So like when you guys are all off your term, the next group could just say, we don't want to do that anymore?
Well,
The idea, Kristen, is to keep, and that's a good question, is to keep this in front of staff as well as then in front of the councils to come. That's part of why we do it on a routine basis, as mentioned annually.
Okay, that's why I was just curious, because I know there's a lot of talk about people saying they want to wipe the slate clean and start over. I was just hoping that the next round people would agree.
And I'm going to be pointed to your comment. I mean, it's a restrictive covenant. It's a development agreement. Current councils cannot tie the hands of future councils. I mean, so I think where you were going,
Right.
if
In
a
5
future
years, if
council
it's
wanted to
different.
change this agreement, they have that ability.
They could.
I don't believe they would, but they always have that ability.
Neil Bach.
Yes.
Just a quick question. What checks and balances do you have in place to make sure that your city clerk does this every year? Upgrades the 21-year covenant, because if you miss a year, probably you're done. I don't know.
Well, she's here now, so she's not going to maybe be here in 21 years.
Yeah,
Correct.
I was going to say, what type of checks and balances, maybe she got right in her calendar. I don't know.
Once again,
I'm just saying that's important. I want to make sure it happens.
When
it is,
when
and that's important to us too.
Kristen
Neil.
said what she said, that was the first thing I was going to talk with Mike Wednesday morning. How are we going to be able to make sure that stays in front?
Neil, one of the things that we had discussed was, we don't have to do this every year. We can do it at the 21-year mark. The intent is to do it every year, so that way it doesn't get forgotten over.
What happens if you miss a year?
And if we miss a year, we're still covered. So if we pick it up,
As it goes for 21 years.
yeah,
You
if
could
we
go to
pick it
year
up in
20.
a year in 1 month, it's 21 years from.
I didn't know if it was, if you missed a year, if you were, no.
You could go to year 20 and sign it up for another 21 years.
Right. Yeah, and I would imagine probably the folks in there would probably make sure we don't forget.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
And just to comment, we maintain an annual planning calendar as staff. We'll just add it to that item. And so it's on our calendar.
Any other comments? Seeing none, it is 5:58, and I'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the council? Questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the publication of the notice of public hearing and approving of the authorized execution of a development agreement by and between the City of Carroll and Greenstream Homes of Iowa LLC.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote.
Base?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
No.
Tots?
Yes.
Motion approved, 5-1.
Thank you. The next item under ordinances is the Kemper Catholic School System restricted parking request. And please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Kemper School System has requested a parking restriction to accommodate their drop-off and pickup at the Kemper Cares Child Event. Their request is for a 15-minute restriction between 2:30 and 6 p.m. from Monday through Friday. And that is for one parking stall on the east side of Clark Street, north of Bluff. The we've prepared an ordinance for your consideration that will establish that by city code. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend that you consider that ordinance to add the parking restriction to the city code.
Randy, we did something like this a couple of years ago, didn't we, on the opposite side of the school?
Yes, there was something really similar to this. It was actually a 30-minute parking restriction. It had days and times, and it was effective. Yes.
Is there a reason why they just asked for 15 and not 30? Because I think on the east side it's 30.
On the east side, it's 30. This is just for drop-off and pickup.
Oh, it's not for,
10.
okay.
So it's arrive and walk.
It's a pretty quick in and out, Mr. Mayor. I utilize that service, and it's just an in and out. Oftentimes, the parking spots are occupied if there's sporting events or the like going on there. That just gives a spot for everybody to hop in and out. Doubtful it'll ever be over 5 minutes, to be honest with you.
But, you know, you need 30 or you kind of get it. Okay. Is there any other questions for Randy? I guess I need a motion to approve the passage of the ordinance. And if you want to waive all 3 readings?
Yeah.
Waive all 3 readings on the ordinance to the parking restriction on Park Street.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And I need a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved. Second.
The motion and second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our first resolution this evening is the Corwus Family Second Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plats. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight is consideration of the Corwus Family Second Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plats. The Corwus Family Subdivision came before you about a year ago and platted 3 single-family homes on the west side of Kitty Hawk, just north of Quan's Auto Salvage. Lot 3 is being replatted as now Lot 1, and increasing the lot from 5 acres to 9.133 acres, and really adding additional land on the west side of the lot. The property is outside the city limits, however, it's within our 2-mile review area, thus why it's before the council this evening. This property is, in our comprehensive plan, as agriculture and is zoned A2 Ag District. There are no new streets or public utilities that are proposed to be built with this, and West Central Iowa Rural Water is proposing to provide each service to each lot and will be using septic for sanitary sewer service. The attached preliminary plat and final plats include all the information required for platting, and this was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they are recommending that the City Council approve the Corwus Family Second Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plats. And staff is recommending the same. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Mike, when you say lots, there's still only the one lot, correct?
There's only one lot in this subdivision, correct?
There isn't any city water out there yet, so they would have to run.
So if you're looking at the plan, you see, starting on the north, lot 1, lot 2, that's part of the original Corwus Family subdivision. And now what is now labeled as a second lot 1 on the south side is what is part of this Corwus Family Second Subdivision. We like to keep everyone on their toes.
But you said it was right next to Quan, so it's...
Hey, Mike, I should have asked this earlier, but has there ever been a situation where we have held to 5-acre lots? Just the fact that 9 came up, I wanted to make sure that probably some other people who'd be forced down 5 to be hollering about us allowing somebody to go to 9, or is this?
5 is the minimum.
Okay.
Yes, so you have to have at least 5 in the zoning class.
I just remember 5, and
And I'm just curious on their rural water, that when they do that, do they ever go through our property to get to this? How does that?
What do you mean through our property?
If they're providing them water, does it ever go through within the 2-mile area? It's not close enough to do that. There's no issue as to whether they would dig up our streets somewhere.
There's one location in the city that, well, in corporate limits, the rural water occupies right of way. And that's right out here on this road. But otherwise, no, everything else, the rural water comes into those locations in the 2-mile limit. And I believe rural water is already existing at this point.
Oh, it's already out there?
There are other platted properties to the north of them that I think are currently served by rural water.
Walmart is under city.
Yes, it is.
This is an auto salvage on the other side of the road that's not.
No, that would be outside the corporate limits.
Anyway,
They
okay.
may be served by rural water.
Gotcha. Any other questions? If not, I will need a motion to approve the Corwus Family Subdivision Preliminary Plat as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote.
Cox?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bays?
yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then I need a motion to approve the Corwus Family Second Subdivision Final Plat as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote.
Dirks?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Bays?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item under resolutions is the Corridor of Commerce Downtown Streetscape Phase 10 Design Services Agreement. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have prepared a design services agreement for Phase 10 of the Corridor of Commerce project. It's been prepared with Confluence, who has designed all of the previous phases. And that Phase 10 project includes 7th Street from West Carroll, and then 7th Street from Main to Clark. We've added in the Westgate Mall parking lot, which is primarily just lighting. Leaving that out, there would be 2 lights remaining in the Central Business District that would be leased lights as opposed to those owned under the streetscape projects. We've added 4th Street parking lot. That's bounded by it's east of Adams and north of 4th Street. The envision there is similar to what we did in that 4th Street parking lot behind the brewery and that. And then we did add pedestrian curb ramps into this project. There are several curb ramps in the previous streetscape projects that were built according to the regulations at the time, but the regulation has changed. And this is proposed to bring those into current compliance with current regulations. The agreement includes services through final design and letting of the project. We haven't included construction services in this agreement. Most of the construction service work is done by city personnel, but we do contract on a limited basis for some consultation with Confluence. So that would come after a contract is let. In this contract are compensated on an hourly basis up to a maximum of $97,915. And that is based on a $1.2 million estimated project cost. This agreement envisions completion of design in March of 2019 and bid letting in April of 2019. Current budget includes $76,000 to initiate the design on Phase 10. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend passage and approval of the resolution approving or accepting the design services agreement with Confluence for Streetscape Phase 10.
So it's starting next May, okay. Any questions for Randy? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the resolution accepting the design services agreement with Confluence for the downtown streetscape Phase 10 project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item is the Corridor of Commerce Downtown Streetscape Phase 11 Design Services Agreement. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've also prepared a design services agreement with Confluence for Streetscape Phase 11. This is the last phase. It's currently programmed for the streetscape. And it's brought to you at this time because it includes Highway 30 from Highway 71 to West Street, and then Highway 30 from Clark Street to Grant Road. The original envision for that portion of the corridor was for street lighting. Now, there's been discussion through the ensuing years that maybe sidewalk should be considered through that part of the corridor. I'm bringing this to you early so that we can get some preliminary design work done and back to you for consideration to include sidewalk in this project. And not only your consideration, but time allowed for adjacent owner meetings, input, because sidewalk construction through that corridor will be difficult. And it'll impact the adjacent businesses quite a bit during construction. So it's a pretty serious decision, and it's also a pretty expensive decision. But the outcome it certainly would be nice, a nice corridor with sidewalk and street lighting improved. In any case, the services are the same. This is through letting. It's what we proposed. Once again, construction is generally handled by city maintenance person or city personnel, with some consultation will be necessary with Confluence. The fees for this agreement are on a not-to-exceed basis of $118,775, and that's based on a $1.6 million project. Time frame for completion includes initiation of this next spring, March of 19, and then working through to bid letting in March of 20. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend, again, approval of the resolution accepting this design services agreement so that this design can be completed and discussions started with the extent of the project, the desired extent of the project.
Randy, I'm kind of interested in what the changes in sidewalks are. What are you anticipating?
Replacing sidewalks.
Total replacement of what there's there and no additional sidewalks?
Oh, well, constructing sidewalks where there are none?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is?
That.
Okay.
You know, there's a wide range, and that's why we suggest.
And that's a big part of that 1.6 million.
It's a huge part of it. You know, whether you do complete sidewalks, two sides of that primary highway through town would make a great corridor, or you elect to scale that back. Those are decisions that need to be made. we've structured this so that we can pick up survey and do design for both sides. And that way you've got the information you need to make an informed decision on the sidewalks.
What's the proposed width on the sidewalks?
It is not proposed. Once again, there's a lot of decisions to be made. In a typical commercial area, sidewalks are behind the curb and then extend back from there. So that's an alternative. In some of this, currently, some of the sidewalks have a border area between the back of curb and the sidewalk. So those are all decisions to be made, and that it would be, it can be looked at to be uniform, it doesn't have to be uniform. But when you get into driveway entrances to commercial areas, they'll have a lot of impact on what you do with the sidewalk, too.
You gave us one time, I think you did anyway, kind of an estimate as to what it costs per square foot of sidewalk we build, or do you remember doing that?
I remember.
I'm sure it's different.
Giving you an estimate of cost to build sidewalks, ped ramps.
Yes, that's what it was.
10,000 an intersection, wasn't it?
1,000 per ramp.
1,000 per ramp.
Yeah. And that's what we're using, just pretty much for estimating.
And we don't have anything budgeted for this currently, right?
We do not. That would be something that we would approach during budgeting for this next fiscal year.
Just to clarify, we have budgeting for the lighting portion, but not for the sidewalk proposed.
No, there's nothing included in your current budget for Phase 11. The estimate and the capital improvement program targeted some funding, but that has not been approved in a budget yet.
Gotcha, thank you.
The DOT isn't planning on doing anything along here that we get a project going and they decide to come in and tear out what we put in.
They certainly will coordinate with the DOT. There is nothing for Highway 30 in their 5-year plan, which maybe we'd like it to be, but currently not.
Can you put the sidewalks as an alternate? Or would you want to just put them in?
Well, no, that would be a decision you'll want to make.
Okay.
There can, to some extent, you can bid some alternates, but to bid a complete sidewalk alternate or no alternate, that would be quite a large alternate price.
So let me ask you this then. So then, when the Confluence looks at this, they will be able to pull the sidewalks out and say, this is how much you're going to spend on sidewalks.
Yeah.
We'll have a set number for sidewalks. Okay.
Have the businesses that are going to be affected, have they been, somebody talked to them yet on this?
No, it's way too premature to do
Way too
that.
early, okay.
And that would just kind of light the fire. I think that you need, we're recommending that you pick up the survey, get some preliminary design work down, and then we'll get businesses involved, by invitation. And say, look at this, what do you think? Some may think good, some may think not good. But it's pretty premature. I mean, certainly they'll know that something may be coming because it's been in the capital improvement program for 14 years. So something's coming, but exactly what, we don't even know yet. And I think that's something you need to know so that you can intelligently talk to businesses.
Yeah.
And this is still in the TIF district, which they've been paying taxes for 14 years, correct?
Yes.
So the document tonight gets us the ability to go out, gather the data, and you to bring it back so that we can then start trying to converse with the public and figure out which ways we'd like to take it.
Certainly, making your decision and involving the adjacent owners to do that.
I do see people walking across the street, going over to Hy-Vee or Burger King, or walking back across the street. And I know I've seen people going up 71 walking across the street, where there's no controlled intersection. So So, if there's sidewalks that are available and it's continuous, that would maybe help keep them off the streets a little more too, I don't know. Or a big trail. What, a big trail, Jack? Trail.
Yes, Jack's paying part of your bill.
There we go.
Of course.
Charges the park.
Any other questions for Randy? If not, I will need a motion to approve the resolution accepting the design services agreement with Confluence for the Downtown Streetscape Phase 11 project.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. If there isn't any other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Base,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Cots,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Fleshner.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item is reports, and seeing none. I trust everyone's read the committee reports and activity reports. My comment I guess I would make tonight is I thank everybody for coming along with the library groundbreaking, and sorry about the facilities tonight, but it kind of worked out for now, and then we'll see you in the boardroom at the next meeting, I believe. Any other comments from the city council? Any comments from the city manager? Not? Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Fleshner.